Welcome to the pruning video series. Now these trees were planted in this space about 3 years ago. And as you can see, they're growing quite well. Okay, let's do this tree in real time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start removing the big wood right away. This stuff is all too big and there's a ton of blind wood above, as you can see. So we're gonna remove that. I'm gonna bench cut this one. So there's not a whole lot left in the bottom, but that's okay because we had this huge amount of blind wood up top, but we've still got lots of options up here. As we move further up in the tree, we're gonna make some other fairly aggressive cuts. Again, I'm going for the big wood first. I'm gonna take this big wood right out, and that's pretty much it. What are the first things that we want to think about before we start pruning? Well, first of all, we want to think about the space. We only have a certain amount of space that these branches can grow, and look at, they're already growing into each other already. So that's not necessarily good. Looks fine now, but once these trees have leaves on them, they're going to shade each other out. Second thing to notice is that we've got a lot of vigor on these trees. So I want to keep that in mind when I'm pruning. Also, I have some blind wood here that I noticed as well that we may want to deal with. Let's just take a look at the rootstock as well for a second. On these 3 trees, you'll notice that this bud union is quite far out of the ground, and the tree next to it over here, this bud union is a little bit lower in the ground. And then this tree, the bud union is even lower in the ground. Now, again, that is going to decide how I'm going to prune the tree as well. If the rootstock is very low in the ground, then obviously we know that it will probably have quite a bit of extra vigor that we have to deal with, okay? So let's start on a tree. So on this tree, what are we gonna do first? We're gonna take out the big wood. Now we know we have to reduce the crop load. We need to maintain the space. We also want to allow light. So we're gonna take out some of these ones that are crossing each other, right? We also wanna stimulate new growth, but on these new trees, that's not as much of an issue because we've got lots of new growth, okay? Now, I'm also thinking about the 50% rule. So if there's any of these branches that are bigger than 50% of the leader, I'm probably gonna take them out. Here's a little tip for you. This is forked here. These 2 branches are forked. You'll notice that this branch coming out is at least 50% of the diameter of the trunk. And you'll notice this blind wood above that spot. Now, to get rid of this blind wood or promote branches in this area, we actually need to take this branch out. If I could come back and I could tip it, but that wouldn't be very good because then the response from those 2 tipping cuts are going to be a bunch of new branches coming out the side. And we've already got a fork here, which is not good. We could cut these back, we could head them back, but if we head these branches back, now what's gonna happen is we're gonna have even more power from these side buds. They're gonna push new branches and we're gonna have a big bush that's gonna come out of here. So that's not good either. We could come back and we could take it back to 1 liter. Now this is looking better, but I still don't think it's quite as good as it could be. We have a bud back here, which is an option. I can cut back to that. So this bud will now push, but it'll push with a vengeance. And here's my other problem. If I don't take this out now, I'm probably not gonna have, like these dormant buds or latent buds here are probably still not gonna push and I'm gonna have that blind wood. So what's the best option for this scenario? Well, I think actually the best option is probably to take it out. Now we could bench it. So I've just made a bench cut on there, but I'm probably gonna still get a really powerful branch that's gonna come out of the bottom. So you know what probably the best option in this scenario is? Just take it right out. So we're gonna do a flush cut. Now that wasn't a super great flush cut. That's a better flush cut. You'll notice it's almost flush on the top and then it goes out on the bottom. So we've got cambium on the bottom, so it's gonna heal much, much faster since we did that cut properly now. Okay, so now it looks like we did a really aggressive move by taking this branch out, but I tell you what's gonna happen. All these little branches and dormant buds and latent buds are gonna push now, and we're gonna get a whole bunch of new branches here in this tree. And we wouldn't have got that if we hadn't taken that branch out. Okay, now that we took out a really big branch at the bottom, let's assess these other branches that are down low. This one here is really aggressive. You can see we probably had at least 2 feet of growth on this last year. Probably need to do something with this. Now we could just leave it alone and it probably will fruit up, but I'm a little bit nervous about it because it's pretty big. We did make another really big aggressive cut here. So a lot of that energy or the water, right? Or the sap is now gonna be diverted into these other areas, but I'm afraid that it's also gonna be diverted into this branch right here. So you know what? This is a great opportunity for a bench cut because it's not too big. You can see it's smaller than this size, but we're probably gonna get a latent bud, so I'm still gonna get a branch here, but then I'm gonna fill up this space as well. These branches below, I'm gonna clean these up just a little bit as well. As you can see, we've got this branch over here, which is actually gonna be shading this branch below it. So I'm not too keen about that. I think what I'm gonna do is take this one right back. I'm gonna single it out. So again, if you can, you always want one branch in one direction off these tiny little trees, okay? Same with this one here. Again, I can just clean it up. We'll leave this one for now. It looks like we might even have a fruit bud on the end of the branch there. Okay, let's move up a little bit on the tree and have a look. Maybe we can do a pan up and see the rest of the tree and just see what we're looking at. We've got a number of really vigorous branches to deal with. Now, as you can see, this is a very, very upright growth type branch, and we probably need to take it out. We're not gonna probably get much fruit off of here, and we have other options around it. So let's take this one out. We're just gonna do actually more of a bench cut just because I can get in there. We're gonna reduce that. I'm gonna also bench this one here because I think it's too vigorous. Now let's move up a little bit. We've got this branch here, which is much, much too vigorous, and I've got lots of other options around here. There's all the latent buds. There's also other branches around here. So I'm gonna take it right out. Again, going for the flush cut, that's gonna be my best choice. Don't get greedy and leave a stub there because you're gonna get a bush off that. You've got lots of other options here. Let's keep moving up the tree below again, and I'm gonna get more and more aggressive as I get closer to the top of the tree because these branches are all gonna be challenging the leader. So we're gonna take those off, another flush cut, another flush cut. And you know what? Now that I look at the tree, this is also gonna take off, and I've got lots of other latent buds around here. So I'm gonna do a bench cut here because it's not too vigorous. Might even, that's reaching for the sky, so I'm gonna take that off. Gonna clean that up. Looks like there was a branch that was broken from last year or something, so I'm gonna clean that up. I don't want any broken, dead, or diseased or dying wood. And that's pretty good. So if you take a look at the whole tree, we haven't made that many cuts. We've definitely reduced the amount of large branches because again, I want to promote all these other latent buds. I want to push all these other latent buds out. That's pretty good. All right, let's move on to the next tree. And if you can just look down at the bottom of this tree here, you'll notice that there's a branch that's sticking out that's fairly low. Now this is a problem because again, if you're using any tilling machines or you're weed spraying, this is going to be an issue because this branch is too low. If you think about it, if you have an apple on this branch, it's going to be hanging much, much too low to the ground. So let's just take that out right now. Let's do a flush cut. The other thing you'll notice is that there's buds actually pushing out of this wood very, very low down. The best thing to do right now is just take your finger and just take those buds off because you don't want those turning into branches. Now I noticed that there's a little stub on the back side, so I'll take that off. I'll also take this off here. Generally speaking, I take any branches that are below my knee off, just to keep them out of the way. Okay, let's move up in the tree now. I'll notice that there was a few cuts that were made last year. Let's look at those responses. We had a cut here, and here's our response, right? Now we have a fork. That's not ideal. So I could come back now to this main branch here, but you'll notice this branch is actually already growing into the opposite tree. This is a very, very tight spacing. It's probably about 18 inches or so. So I'm gonna have to even deal with that one. I might even take that back to this bourse shoot here, you can see. And there's actually, you can tell where the fruit was last year. So that's an option there. Another option or thing that I could do, I could even take it back to this particular shoot right here, and that may give me another piece of fruit the following year. So maybe I'll leave that there for now. Again, this is getting close to that 50% of the diameter of the main trunk. So I could even just take that right out, but I'm gonna leave it for now. Let's look at the one below. You'll notice that there was a stub cut last year, and here is our response. We got a little branch out of it. So you know what, I'm just gonna clean that up, and I'm gonna leave that little branch actually. I could tip it, so that's an option.
I could tip it, but I don't want to do anything more than that. Some growers would say just to leave it, and it will set up fruit buds. It's quite lateral, so it's a good little branch. It is getting a little bit long. You can tip it or just leave it alone. That's okay. Okay, let's keep moving up the tree here now. We've got lots of nice little laterals, and I'm just going to leave these alone. These are really nice pieces of wood, nice and small. Looks like they're going to fruit. They're already starting to fruit up, which is great. But as we get up a little higher, I'm getting into some wood that's getting a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna do a bench cut on this one, because again, I gotta remember, I need light coming to all these branches down low. Now, if I didn't cut this branch out, remember, it's gonna be full of leaves, and that's gonna shade all these little branches, these nice little branches below. So again, important to take that bigger wood out now, don't wait. Same with this branch here. I noticed that I'm probably gonna have some fruit on here, which is great, but again, it's getting way too big because it's actually crossing this other tree. So again, I wanna take it out. I could do a flush cut or a bench cut. It's not too big yet. I can get away with a bench right now. Okay, let's keep moving up the tree. Whoa, what do we run into here? We've got some really powerful branches, and look what else we have. Right above these super powerful branches, there's nothing. There's no branches. Can you see that? So what this tells me again is that water or sap or energy that's coming up the tree, again, it's gonna get diverted. The tree is almost deciding to make these into the leader. We want the energy to be back in the main trunk or leader, okay? So let's take them right out. So we could do this. Now that's a decent cut. However, the problem with this is that I'm probably gonna now take all that energy that was diverted into those branches that wanted to be leaders and put it into this one. You know what I should do is take it right out. So when in doubt, take it out, right? When in doubt, take it out. We're gonna go ahead and do a flush cut. It's a little bit ugly, but that's okay. We can recut it. There we go, it's not bad. Now what's gonna happen is all this area that we call blind wood, which has lots of little latent buds in it, now those branches are gonna push out. That's exactly what we want. Okay, let's move up the tree. Again, being more and more aggressive, because remember, as I get further up the tree, the diameter of the trunk gets smaller, which means that the branches that I have to take off are also smaller. Again, we're still sticking with the 50% rule. So let's take this off, it's too big. We've got lots of nice little branches in here, but again, we've got some other branches that are challenging the leader. So let's take those off. And it's okay, we've got so many options here. We've got so many options that that's okay if we're taking out branches. Don't be afraid of taking out too much of your crop here. And then of course, this one here at the top, if you can see that, this diameter is probably about 70% of the trunk. So again, that needs to come out. And usually at the top, I don't do much benching. I almost do, the majority of the cuts that I make are flush cuts. And again, we take those right off when we're challenging the leader. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We've got a couple branches on the back and then we'll be done. And I think we're pretty good. So again, as you can see, my branches now are not crossing over each other. I've got lots of little feathers here. I'm still gonna get a decent crop this year. It's not gonna be huge, but that's okay because these trees are young. My main concern is filling all this blind wood so that I get nice, consistent crop for the subsequent year. But there will be lots of fruit this year. So you'll probably notice that this tree is a little bit less vigorous than the other trees that we just pruned a few minutes ago. But having said that, it still has quite a bit of energy. So let's take a look at it. We again have a number of areas where we have blind wood. So that is areas where there is dormant buds, but they haven't pushed. And they probably haven't pushed because if you look down a little bit lower, we've got some really big branches here, as you can see. And those are kind of taking the energy away from these buds here, which have the potential of pushing. But they'll only push if we get rid of this big wood. So let's do that. All right, so again, first things first is the big cuts. I'm gonna make, again, for those really big branches, I'm not gonna stub them, I'm gonna flush them, take them out. So right away, we've already changed the shape of the tree by removing just 2 big branches. And this will make a very, very big difference. But we've got some other issues going on. We've got this fork that's happening right here, and we've got this vertical shoot that's growing directly upright that's gonna start challenging the leader. So we're gonna go ahead and take that right out. Let's look at these other branches below. We've got some other really large branches here. Now keep in mind, it's a smaller size tree, but we still have to think about the 50% rule. This branch, believe it or not, is almost 50% already of the diameter of the trunk. So out it comes. And we're actually gonna do a flush cut. Again, we're being aggressive now so that we set up our structure of the tree properly for later on. So I cleaned up the tree. So now I've got lots of nice little branches here. That's great. There's other buds that are actually already starting to push, and we're gonna get other branches out of there. So I'm not worried about any blind wood in this area. Moving up the tree, we did a really big cut here. So we're gonna push these branches here like crazy. Now let's look at the top of the tree. We've got quite a few little darts, but let's keep in mind though, again, some of these are getting quite large compared to the diameter of the trunk, but for now they're okay, and you can see they're setting up fruit buds, so I'm okay with that. This one here though, I'm not okay with because it's pushing quite hard. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that right out. I'm gonna do a flush cut. There we go, we're just gonna get rid of that one. We've got another branch here, again, it's shooting for the moon. We're gonna take that one out. Clean that one up. We've got two little branches heading in two little directions. I don't like it. One branch in one direction if you can help it. And then closer to the top of the tree, we've got this one here. This one concerns me a little bit because I think it's going to want to take over the leader. So I'll take that one right out. And these ones I'll just leave because they're fairly small. I think we're done. There you have it. If high quality fruit is what you're after, then pruning is key. It starts with pruning, and it's probably one of the most important things that you can do on your orchard to, again, maximize the quantity and quality of your fruit. And I hope this video will actually help you get you where you need to be.